Information to help you run your business better and improve your marketing campaigns. My name is Hank Hoffmeyer, and thank you for joining me on Hank's Marketing and Business Tips. Welcome to episode 305 of the HMBT podcast. I have someone that I met a couple of years ago in Dallas, Texas, while we were at the Digital Summit Conference. His name's Roger Williams. He's a partnership manager for North America at Kinsta. If you don't know what Kinsta does, they are a WordPress tool site, whatever you want to call it. Lifesaver, I would call it. Kinsta, the WordPress lifesaver, because I've used it in the past. I'm using it now. We'll talk about what that means. And also, let's talk about websites and WordPress, if that's all right with you, Roger.
Yeah, absolutely, Hank. Thank you so much for having me on. This is a true honor. I appreciate you bringing me here.
Yeah, I see what you're doing. You're spreading the word about, Kinsta, WordPress, websites. I see you're doing a lot of conferences and just getting behind the camera and putting stuff out on LinkedIn, just like I do. I thought it was a natural thing just for us to get behind the mic today.
Yeah, actually, you're to blame for a lot of this. So when we met at Digital Summit Dallas 2024, I had been doing kind of my podcast with Kinsta called Kinsta Talks for just a few months at that point. And I was really, I think, doubting myself and I was uncertain. And you like definitely crystallized the fact that I needed to be doing what I was doing, even there's the whole fake it till you make it thing for sure. But there's also I've got the experience. I've been doing this long enough. I know what I'm talking about. And you just really helped me get over whatever doubts I still maybe had about myself and just like doing recordings. And you even pushed me to get out from just doing studio recordings and actually recording people in the field. And we exchanged tips about lav mics and tripods and everything. So, man, full circle moment happening right now. So thank you again.
Yeah, I want to do more of the man in the street interviews, but I always find it kind of awkward to just go up to somebody and just say, "Hey, can I do a video with you?" Right? But I tend to do that, especially at conferences. Once I get one under the belt, I just start asking everybody, and I love creating, gathering content at different conferences. I was at MailCon last year, and they actually set up a booth where you can go in and do interviews. And I think I did about 6 where I did videos with people, and like other people may have done 1 or 2, but I was like, I love talking to other people. I grabbed like 6 people and we did them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And actually, I've started up a podcast with a friend of mine, Robbie Adair of the Media A team, and it's called Agency Intel.
Okay.
We just launched our 4th podcast or episode as of April 16th here when we're recording. And we just did so we had been doing them all through Riverside, all virtually. And then there was a conference just last week, press conf in Tucson or Tempe, Arizona. And Robbie is like super professional audio visual. Like she goes to corporate clients and sets up video podcast studios. And so she set up a 4-camera studio in her hotel room. Wow. And we got like 7 interviews out of the way. And we're planning to do another conference here in May where we'll have like a 6-camera setup. But anyway, yeah, it's just fun talking to people and learning about what they're up to and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, and I'm playing around with the AI stuff now. I'm using HeyGen. Actually, today was the first time I posted like a 3D caricature of me, doing some tips and stuff like that. And I'm looking forward to seeing what that technology does. But today we're real people, but AI is here and it can do so many things. Do we still need a website in this day and age? Because AI is going to take over everything. That would be my first question to you. How important is it to have a website this day and age?
Yeah, really great question, very timely. And it is interesting how often this is coming up where, people are doubting if they need to have a website and because now we can just go into chatbots, right? And we can ask everything and it gives us the answer, right? It's a 0-click world, right? We're not even going to websites anymore. But you have to ask yourself, where is AI getting those answers from? And the answer is it's getting it from your website. And so if you don't have a website, you are not going to show up in the AI answers.
Right.
So, more important than ever before, you absolutely need to have a website and you need to be constantly updating it with information about yourself, your company, your industry. The chatbots don't just make this information up. Yes, they hallucinate answers and get them wrong, but they are basing all of this off of data that's getting scraped off the internet. And in fact, the problem that we're seeing now is there's so many AI bots out there that at Kinsta anyway, we've had to start going back and offering bandwidth hosting plans. It's like 2010 all over again. And I can go way off the deep end with all of this stuff, but the short answer is yes, you need a website more than ever before.
I think today will be like the TLDR and have an overview conversation, and then I need to bring you back. We'll get more technical, get a little nerdy, right?
Sure, yeah.
Let's play Mythbusters because I want to test your knowledge here. Here's something I heard,
Oh,
and I believe it, but I haven't confirmed. If you have
okay.
FAQs on your website, which is a great thing for SEO and for AI overviews, there's
Yes.
the accordion style, which it'll have the question and then it expands. From what I heard, the AI crawlers do not expand it, will not read that data. Do you know if that's true or not?
Ooh, that's a great question. I do not have a good answer for anything on that. Just thinking through it for a second here, and I think, we should look this up, but if the AI bot is just looking at your website visually, like a person looks at it, then I could see there being a problem there, right? Because it needs to perform an action, click a button, expand it. If, however, it's just scraping the HTML of the page, then that shouldn't be a problem as long as there's nothing silly. Like usually the way that those accordions are working is there's just some piece of JavaScript, right? But when you look at the HTML, everything is just right there to look at. Um, I think what's an interesting test would be is how does a screen reader look at your site? If a screen reader has a problem seeing all the content on your site, then the AI bots will probably also have a problem scraping your site. So, really good question, very interesting, and I think it's something to look into. My other response is please don't do accordions on your website. I don't like your accordions.
Well, I guess they're trying to minimize the content for people that don't want to read that. This way they can consume what's below that because their page is a mile long.
Yeah, no, I understand. I get it why you would put an accordion in. I just, as a user, right, you're now making it more difficult for me to read the content on your website. Don't do that. Like,
Yeah.
if you need to create another page, guess what? You have unlimited pages on your website. Like, just make another page and link to it. There's this amazing technology called a hyperlink. Check it out.
All right. The article could have been clickbait, but guess we'll have to verify this. But what it was saying in there, if I remember correctly, is that it does not interact with interactive elements on your website, which would mean it's like a screen reader rather than reading the HTML. Which also I heard if you have like a 1,200 word blog post, but somebody has a similar topic and theirs is only 300 words, it will scrape and summarize all of that and just say yours is too long and then just say it's not worth it and just leaves right away.
Okay. Yeah. No, all of that jives. I think, well, so, this kind of parrots into a conversation about accessibility, right? And so
Yeah.
that's where screen readers come in. Um, we've been talking about accessibility since the internet started, right? Alt image tag has been part of HTML standards since the 90s.
Mhm.
So accessibility has always been a very important aspect of the web. However, we as a society have done a terrible job at making our websites accessible. And so I think the principle to follow here is if the site's accessible, you're in a good situation. If it's
Mhm.
not accessible, you're going to have trouble. Because again, yeah, the bots are just scraping whatever they can see on the site. So make sure that it's all available. And if your site is also accessible and it meets the accessibility standards, it's going to also work for the bots. So you're going to get a little 2 for 1 there. And in fact, you get a 3 for 1 because it turns out when you make your website accessible, it's more accessible for all of us, right? Whether we have visual impairments or not. If you've made the site easier for me to read,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm going to stay on it longer. I'm going to buy more stuff on it. So it's a triple threat, really. Get all this stuff.
All right. Does Kinsta do anything as far as accessibility or no? I don't think I looked into that.
Yeah, so let me do a little sales pitch for you here. Thank you for setting me up there. So Kinsta is a managed host for WordPress websites. So what does that mean? So first of all, we're the host. So if you think of a website like a building or a house, there's three main components for a very simplified way to look at it. The first component is your domain name. So that's your address. It's how people find your building, right? You got to have a domain name. Then you have the website, right? The files, and if it's a WordPress site, you get a database too. And that's the actual building. And you can change that, right? If you want to put a different coat of paint on there, you want to move some windows around, right? You can change how the website, how the building looks, how the website works. All of that needs to go somewhere. So with a building, right, you have it on a plot of land. With a website, you need to have them on a server. And you could take your laptop right now and you could open up a whole bunch of the ports to the public and you could have a web server on your laptop. I don't recommend doing that for a number of reasons. The first one is just security. You're now allowing all these things to come into your server and do whatever they want, right?
Right.
And the other reason is just bandwidth. The bandwidth at your home is meager compared to what's in a data center. So you want to get a host because of security and because of performance. And so that's where you put your website. So we're a managed host. And what that means is all of the software that goes into running that web server, we manage. And so we keep all of that working for you. We keep it up to date to the latest upgrades. So it's, again, still very secure and very fast. And then it's managed host for WordPress, which means the only thing we host are WordPress websites. So we're very focused on optimizing. There's caching layers, there's database optimizations, and again, security stuff. So we're handling all of that. So that's what Kinsta is doing for you. From an accessibility standpoint, we then leave it up to you to do whatever you want to do with your WordPress website. And what we're going to do is make sure that the website is always up and available. So when someone comes to visit it, it loads really quickly and reliably. And then you need to make sure you're going through and making your website accessible. And there's a lot of great partners. If people are looking for help with accessibility, I highly recommend there's a website called Equalize Digital.
Okay.
They have a ton of free resources. They have a WordPress plugin you can install. It'll help you do some evaluations. But then they also offer actual services to help you audit your website and do remediation and all types of things like that. But they also just have a lot of resources. They do a monthly meetup online. And
Pretty balloons.
I've got all my Apple emojis happening here. They do a monthly event for accessibility where they'll have guest speakers come on and they'll talk about different aspects of accessibility. And they're just a great resource. They're really great people, Chris and Amber Hines, and I highly check that out. Stay focused on accessibility, people.
Yeah.
It's shocking how much we don't make our websites accessible. And if you're in the United States or Europe, you can also get in trouble financially with a lot of penalties for not having your website accessible. So pay attention to this.
Yeah. There's a lot of folks going out there just trying to do some litigation and get some money to just pick random sites and go after them. And also, if you're like a larger company, there's a company called Crown Peak, which can help you. They're probably pretty expensive. I worked with them in the past with a large company, but it's
Okay.
a tool that scrapes your site, looks at it, and tells you what where you're in compliance, I guess is a good term, and where you're deficient and how you need to fix it. And it gives you tips. But that
Yeah.
one's pretty expensive, I would say. But if you're a large company and you work, for that company and you're listening to the show, that would be good. And like you said, having that domain name and an IP address, and then having your website, love that. And then you have your website, you need to be collecting email addresses, right? For
Ah,
marketing. Then you verify them with Kickbox, who I work for. And I just quickly
yeah.
want to mention, since you opened a door here, that by listening to this show, you can use code HMBT at Kickbox to get 5,000 free credits. Normally you get
Wow.
100 to test it out, but I want to give 5,000. Kickbox loves to support this show. And yeah, that's that part. And one thing, I
Beautiful.
mean, you only talked about a few things Kinsta does because I use it. And I've hopped in and had to do some complex things, and I found that your tool makes it pretty easy. One is
Yeah.
backups, and you said automatic backups, like it'll do it daily, but then like me, and it saved my butt a couple times. I've gone in and done manual backups right before I'm going to make major changes because
Yep.
then something happened where, oh my God, I pressed delete and it deleted the whole page, which doesn't really happen, but I'm just giving you an example.
Sure.
You can go back and just say, hey, I'm going to revert back to right before I started this work. And I've had that actually save my biscuit a few times. And then the other one is the redirects. If you
Sure.
need to do mass redirects or one at a time, being able to do that very easily. And for folks that might not know, a redirect is, let's say you had a blog post and for some reason you want to deprecate that blog post, don't need it anymore, or it did get deleted, but the URL is still there and it was getting million hits a day. You need that traffic to go somewhere else because Google will ding you for having a page that's a 404 error or non-existent. So you can say, take this URL and point it to this other URL, which is an updated version of this blog post, and it'll just send them over there with no penalty. And I found that that was easy to do.
Yeah.
A little story about that is I took over for someone who was doing some stuff in there, and I found that they
Okay.
did a whole bunch of redirects incorrectly. The syntax was incorrect. Not
Oh,
that Kinsta did anything wrong, the person did the syntax wrong. And it took me
yeah.
forever. And then working with the support team who guided me through this. And then we both had that aha moment that, hey, the reason this is happening is because the syntax is incorrect. Here's how to fix that. And I went back and did all that, like wildcards and all this stuff, which is, people can go do research and all that. But yeah, that
Yeah.
that was great. And there's a lot of other things in there. You can update the plugins from right there. If you
Yep.
manage a bunch of websites, like right now I use Kinsta and I'm managing 3 websites. I can go in and update the plugins for the one, switch over to the other, update the plugins. I don't have to log into each one and then go in and wait for it to update. It just does it. So Kinsta is a great tool if somebody has WordPress or you're looking to get WordPress. I would vouch for it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, yeah. And let me just kind of dive in on a couple of things you brought up there. So the backups, absolutely critical. No matter what host you're at, you should be finding a host that has backups.
Mhm.
But that's only half the story. As you pointed out, it's restoring the backup is where the money really hits the pavement, right? And so test your backups. Make sure that they actually do restore.
Okay.
It's amazing how many times I've been caught where trying to restore a backup at a different host, not Kinsta, but at a different host where either it didn't restore or it took forever. And that's one of the things at Kinsta is we're using Linux containers to operate everything, and it makes the ability to create backups seamless and very quick. Another thing to point out you should be checking out is staging
I was
environments.
going to say that.
So, staging environments is the ability to make a copy of your live website and do your tomfoolery, right? And if you mess something up, no big deal. You just throw away the staging environment. We provide those with all of the sites, and we give you a temporary URL so that if you want to show your client or your coworkers, hey, here's the new thing I'm trying out, take a look at it before I send it live. Staging environments are amazing for that. So take a look at those for sure. You brought up a couple of other things in there. And my brain's gonna freeze on me for just a second here. After backups, you were talking about what was it? Take me back here.
Redirects.
Redirects. So, yes, redirects. So, the amazing thing with using redirects inside of the Kinsta control panel is it means that they're going into Nginx, which is the web server. And so, you're doing your redirects at a very high level. You can, as an alternative, install a plugin. There's many redirection plugins that you can install onto WordPress, and you can do redirects through that as well. The drawback is you're now relying on the PHP resources of your web server to operate those redirects, which can means that you're reducing resources for your actual website. So use redirects that are at the server level. At Kinsta specifically, we make it very easy to manage them, add them, bulk edit them. And the greatest thing you brought up is the support team. We have an amazing 24/7 support team. They're all WordPress experts, and they will all work with you as much as possible. We do have a scope of support. We're not going to change your code. That's your agency's job. But anything that's on our system, we will walk through you. We will work with you to help you understand it. We have amazing documentation so that you can figure this stuff out on your own as well.
Mhm.
And that kind of also brings a nice little full circle here. We were talking about AI earlier, and do you need a website? Absolutely, you need a website. And if you have a product or a service, you should have really good documentation on your website for two reasons. One is so that your customers can self-serve and they don't have to bother your support team. The other one is so that AI can look at your documentation. And when somebody asks a question of, hey, how do I set up a website for WordPress? It gives an answer of, oh, you use Kinsta, and here's exactly how you use Kinsta because it's looked at the documentation to walk you through all of those steps. So
Makes me
nice full
think like
circle
it's
moment.
like the new YouTube. Like if you needed to put brakes on your car, you would pull up a YouTube video, which I'd probably still do. I don't know if I'd want to do it from Chat GPT, but like you said, like a how-to or enabling your customers to get the data they need to use your product rather than having them waste cycles with chat support or email support, which I know is you can automate that too as well. But you could take that same content, publish it on your website, but also have it in whatever chat support tool you're using, and it's just dual purpose.
Yeah, I would recommend that people start testing this. Go into ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, wherever you're using, and ask it to help you do something with your product and see what it gives you. If it's accurate or not, if it even gives you any information. Start testing all of this because guess what? Your customers are.
I'm writing that down because I need to do that. I'm more worried about the SEO. Like, what is the best email validation service?
Yeah, well, and so this is the new SEO, right? And we're trying to figure out, are we going to call it AI SEO or are we calling it GEO? I know people started saying GEO, but the problem with that is we don't say CO, we say
Yeah,
SEO.
yeah,
So it's GEO, right?
yeah.
But this is the new thing. Like I mean, I don't know about you, but I am in these chatbots all day long, right? I mean, it's amazing how
Mhm.
much like I can get done to help me, like creating proposals, doing research. I mean, I'm using Claude. I built a whole workout app yesterday morning just for the workout that I had yesterday morning. I was like, hey, build me a web app that has like timers and I can put in my repetitions. And it built that thing for me in like 5 minutes.
Wow,
Um,
it's
so
amazing.
start using this stuff and start figuring out all the different ways it can be used because I can guarantee you your customers are doing that.
Yeah. All right, here's another question for you. So somebody's listening, they might want to start up a WordPress website using Kinsta so that they can do a backup of their staging and then do a backup of their production, then do the push and they're all backed up and get all these backups and then you have all your content, which is great. Now, building a website, sometimes people have a little bit of trouble with that. And I know WordPress
Mm.
itself has gotten better with, I don't even know if they moved on from Gutenberg, but I use a platform called Elementor, which is a
Yeah,
drag and drop and AI website building
yeah.
tool. What are your thoughts on that? Do you still recommend that? Do you think it's a good tool to use? I've been using it for years now and I still love it.
Yeah, so Elementor is an amazing page builder, right? And so that's where we're in the realm of page builders. The default editor for WordPress is still Gutenberg, and it's gotten even better. If you haven't checked it out in a while, take a look at it. I was just interviewing JJ Toothman, who runs Lone Rock Point, which they were the agency that built NASA's WordPress site. So if NASA's using WordPress, guess what? You can use WordPress. And they built that all with Gutenberg, and they built custom blocks and they built patterns and all this great stuff. Elementor is a really great tool also for building WordPress websites. They make it very drag and drop, very visual. They've just come out with Angie, which is their AI tool. Um, but an interesting story here is that Miriam Schwab, who is the head of WordPress at Elementor, she recently posted about building her WordPress website using Claude Code. She did not use Elementor. And she had Claude Code build out. There's even a newer technology for building WordPress websites called full site editing. And so they've taken the block editor and they've now applied it to the whole website. And so she built a full site editing website using Claude Code. And it took her about 2 weeks to do it. And there it is. It's up and running. And so there's a lot of different ways to build websites with WordPress. The reason that I recommend that you use WordPress and not just go vibe code something using Lovable or Replit or even Claude is there's a ton of security built into WordPress. I know there's still this misnomer, this myth out there that WordPress is insecure. And actually, there's a story that just came out about a bunch of plugins that just got
Well, that's the thing is it's
bought.
plugins that become insecure, not necessarily WordPress itself.
Exactly. Exactly. So, the big thing is user management, right? So if you ever need to have people log into the website and be able to make changes, that's what WordPress has always made super easy. That's why I started using WordPress. It's why all the clients that I had when I had an agency, I
Mhm.
put on WordPress because it lets regular people who know how to use a computer but not code
Right.
be able to log in and add a comma, right? Do the annoying little thing that as an agency owner, it drives you crazy because you're like, oh my God, why can't you just do this yourself? That's what WordPress lets anybody do. And so, you might be an advanced programmer and know React and JavaScript and all this stuff, but your users don't, and you should be building for your users.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then also, again, I guess Kinsta is just so awesome, right? I love how it's not nagging you, but it's your accountability partner. If it finds that there is an exploit or an issue with a plugin, it tells you and it'll say there is an update available. You'll get that email, which is great because maybe you're working on your business and not in it at that point, right? And
Yeah.
you just haven't updated your plugins in a while. It happens to me for my website. And then you get
Yeah.
the email saying, hey, there's an update for this plugin that has a vulnerability. You might want to go do that now, which is great. It's
Yeah.
definitely worth the money. And we're coming up on time because I want to keep it a little bit short. I definitely have to have you back on because I felt like
Yeah.
we only talked for 5 minutes is what I felt like.
Yeah. Well, and I want to point out one thing is we do have a tool called Automatic Theme and Plugin Updater. It is a paid add-on, but all good things cost money. And with this, we do visual regression testing. So when there's an update for your plugin, we will take a screenshot of 5 pages of your website, and you can tell us which pages you want us to look at. We will then do the update, and then we will take those same screenshots or the same pages. We'll do another screenshot, and if there's a change, that tells us something went wrong. We will revert the plugin update back so that the site doesn't have a problem, and we will then message you and say, "Hey, something went wrong here," and we'll even tell you what we saw. So that then you can go in and do your own testing. But you're absolutely right. Plugins are a something that you need to stay on top of. You need to keep this stuff update. We are doing our best to make it again as easy as possible for you to stay on top of that. And at my job, so just to talk about me for a second, I'm the partnership manager at Kinsta. And if you have an agency, you should reach out and talk to me and let's see what we can do for you from an agency perspective. But yeah, Hank, this is too much fun. We're going to have to do this again.
All right. So number one, get a website. Number two, get Kinsta. Number three, verify your emails with Kickbox. Roger, how can
Yeah.
folks get in touch with you and learn about Kinsta?
So Kinsta.com is where you should go if you want to learn about Kinsta. I'm Roger Williams on LinkedIn. Roger Williams Media, I believe, is my LinkedIn kind of handle. So find me on LinkedIn. I'm there all the time, posting a lot. Say hi. It's roger@kinsta.com is my email as well.
Thank you for your knowledge and passion today. It was a really great conversation.
You're welcome, Hank. Thank you.
See you, everybody.
Bye.